Hi, in this lesson we're going to look at how to create forms that convert. The majority of conversion activities online end in a form. If you have a shopping cart, it's a form. If you have a white paper download, it's a form. Newsletter subscriptions, emails, contacts, they're all forms. In fact, the few times you'll have conversions when they're not forms are if they're phone calls, if someone's clicking on an ad, maybe you're a publisher, or social media followings. Most cases, your conversion activities are forms. So we need to look at how to make forms convert. So the first question to ask yourself is, what is the value of information someone is receiving after they fill out your form? If it's a contact, how much do they really want that contact? If it's an e-commerce buy, how much do they really want that product? What are the benefit features of it? If it's a white paper, is this data that's easily available or that only you have? Now, the perceived value is more important than the actual value. So this is why the way you position the information and what they're receiving is very important. Now, next you need to look to see what's the minimum amount of information you need to be able to give them their data in return. For instance, if you're going to call them back, you need their phone number and their name. If it's a newsletter subscription, all you truly need is an email. So what's the minimum amount of data necessary? Once you have the value information determined, the minimum amount of information determined, you need to determine if they're equal. If the value of what you're giving is higher than the information you're asking for, the value of that information, then you can ask more questions. If the value of what they're receiving is less than what they get in return, you need to change the perceived value of the product or find a way to ask less questions. But beyond just the value of the information, there are some aspects of form design you should really keep in mind as you create your forms. First off, there's some questions that should never be required. One of the worst culprits is, how did you hear about us? This is why you have analytics. You shouldn't have to ask these questions. In fact, this question often turns into a huge lie. I worked with a company who spent a lot of money on marketing. They had a large yellow page budget. They had a very large radio budget, spent a lot of money in newspapers, spent a lot of money online. And whenever we put this question in a form, how did you hear about us? The number one response was always television, a medium they didn't do. They could put TV at the top of the form, the bottom of the form options, hide it in the middle. TV was always number one. So this is where your analytics should tell you how someone found you. Don't make that a question. Also be careful of asking questions that can't truly be answered yet. I see this all the time in the mortgage industry, in the merchant account industry, and many others, where you get to a page, which is a form. You do a search for something like Chicago mortgage, and you get to a page that says, here's a mortgage form, fill it out. And there's a question somebody can't answer. Often in mortgage, it's the loan type. A 30-year fixed, a 20-year fixed, a 10-year ARM, a reverse mortgage, an interest-only mortgage. If you ask questions that are so complex that someone can't answer, all you've done is given them the search queries to go search for. Now say, thank you for giving me this information. I'm going to go back to a search engine and start looking up this information. So in a case like this, where you have some complex questions or maybe a very sophisticated question, make a segmentation page first, show the benefits of each type. Then have that link into a form where this question isn't asked and you just hide it yourself and you know what the answer is. Okay, this one's for a 20-year fixed. This one's for a reverse mortgage. And that way you get those really tough questions out of the form completely. Now, often you see a fight between marketing and sales. What you find is that marketing will tell a sales team, if I can get a name, a phone number, and an email address, you can contact them. And sales says, no, no, no. We want to know their industry type, how big is their company, what's their annual revenues, can I have their cell phone, can I call them on a Saturday afternoon? And those questions lower conversion rates. So there's a few different ways to do compromises here. Number one is to have a multi-page form. Page 1 is your basic details. Page 2 is all those optional questions. Now what you'll do on page 2 is you'll say a nice position statement to the person filling out the form, such as, "Thank you for filling out our information. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. By the way, would you give us some additional information so we can personalize your experience?" Not everybody is going to fill out page 2, but then sales can order their queue based upon the data they do have. Now, if you do it that way, what's going to happen is sales will get more leads. They will also get more unqualified leads. And that's the other sales fight versus marketing fight, is if you want more total leads, the qualified leads go down. If you want less leads, you can generally make them more qualified by asking more questions. There's a balance to be had there. You may even take your page 1, put name, email address, phone number, and then title and a comment section, which is required. And then page 2 asks some of the additional information. Look at the manipulation of the fields by page so that you're getting enough leads, yet they're qualified enough you're not wasting the sales team's time either. Now, there are 3 big things that when you affect, you have to be very careful. Time, money, and family. Those 3 things most people are pretty guarded about. And this is the problem with a lot of forms, is how long they take to fill out. In fact, this form is 7 pages long, it's a few hundred fields, and it wasn't doing too well. They added a single line, which had a big change to conversion rates. Right at the top of page 1, they said, "This will take you about half an hour to fill out, but you can call this number and we will help you fill it out, or we'll get you the information." That made a big difference. You told someone the time investment. Because if somebody sees page 1, then they see page 2, and they see page 2, then page 3, they're just wondering how long this takes to get through. So setting expectations of how easy this is important. Now, this form actually needs to be this long. It's for a merchant account application. It's necessary to have that data. But set expectations or give alternate routes to how they can go ahead and get through that particular set of information. Now, another way to design forms that are multi-pages is by getting someone invested in the form fill. For instance, let's say you have a 10-step process and you need to know certain pieces of information to be able to ask the second question correctly. So what you can do is on page 1, do a single field. Page 2, a single field. It doesn't take too long to fill out a single field. After a couple pages, it's never taken that long, but someone's invested enough in the process, they'll often continue through anyway, as long as you're still setting expectations of how long this is going to take and make sure the form is fairly easy. Now, this concept should make sense to any marketer. Don't let developers write your content. Unfortunately, almost every error on a form is written by developers. So when you see these forms where it's this big checkbox, this pop-up that says, "Hey, find this stuff marked with an asterisk and go fill it out." And then you get back to the form and you're trying to figure out where these asterisks are. This can cause a lot of issues with forms. So make sure errors are really easy to find. This is one of our seminar page signups. You fill out the form. If you make an error, it highlights the section that you missed. Makes it very simple to find errors. Just by making errors easy to find and removing some of the optional questions can make a big difference, because every time you ask an additional question, your conversion rate goes down. So making it easy to find the information that they have to fill out and getting rid of some of the optional information is very important. Now, if you have a really long form and lots of options, be careful. Once you move past 5 checkboxes, switch it to columns. One of the tricks with forms is to make them less intimidating looking. Just by changing the white space between fields, by switching from a long list to a column list, can make a difference in your conversion rates, because the perceived length of time to fill it out appears less. The actual time may not vary, but it's often the perception that matters more than the true information. Now, our eyes are trained to find open boxes when we're filling out forms. If you pre-fill a field, often what happens is someone already sees there's information in that field and they skip it. So if you find that you're getting a lot of errors on your forms, there are often fields like email that you pre-filled. Remove the pre-fill. That makes a big difference. Now be careful with coupon fields. Because if you have a coupon field, often someone will see there's a field and they say, oh wow, you offer coupons. Let me go search for it. In fact, I was working with a retailer, and on their conversion pages, one of their top search queries, which meant someone left the page if they did a search query, was coupon code. So often coupons can help conversion rates if someone gets it before they get to your shopping cart. If they see in your shopping cart, oh, I've got this open field, let me go fill it out, I can often lower conversion rates. So instead, if you look closely here, there is a field for coupon codes. It's this little thing, click to enter referral code. When you click on it, it opens up this box below the code where someone can put it in there. So often changing it from a coupon code to a referral code, someone who has a code still knows what it is, but it doesn't force searches. In fact, when we first launched Certified Knowledge, our number one question was, can I get a discount? And we're not opposed to giving out discounts on our site, but often we do it for teams of 10 or more. All we did was change this to a little JavaScript that says click to enter referral code. They click on it, then they fill it out. That question we rarely received anymore. And all of a sudden, you get to keep all that revenue for yourself now if you're not giving discounts on your products. Now, another issue longer forms have is white is a very common background. However, white does not have anything, there's no pattern to help hold the eyes and focus them through your form. If you find that you have options that are commonly missed, a light CSS shading, something vertical throughout the page that holds the eyes, yet doesn't have a lot of visual appeal to it. It's not going to stand out and detract from the fields. It just helps focus the eyes. It can make a big difference. Often with conversions, a picture, a background shading are used to focus eyes in the proper areas. So always think about eye flow when working with your forms. Now, a big issue I run into with international clients, especially if their sites are designed in the US and they're international, is there's different ways people write month and day depending on country. You often find this with amounts. In some countries, you do your whole amounts, period, then your small amounts like your pennies, like $1.56. In other countries, you do the whole amount and a comma, and then the cents. Well, if your form doesn't recognize commas or tries to parse them out because they're using a CSV, a comma separated value, then you're going to have issues. So using a date picker or making sure that there's a box for the whole number, a box for the smaller number, for the cents, can make a big difference in making sure someone does fill out your form properly. There's also ways you can align fields. And while this may seem very small, there's a big difference it can make in conversion rates. So you have it where the field is right next to the instructions of what they need to fill out. Another way of doing it is to align the fields together, and it makes a space between the information for the field or the field label and the field itself. Finally, you can put the field directly below the field information. Now, why this may seem a very small variation in forms, it makes a big difference in how fast someone can absorb the information. If you put the field directly below the label, that's the fastest eye speed from label to filling out the form part. However, it takes up more vertical space. So it's great for a very simple form, name, email, phone number type of forms. But when you put a label above the form, it makes the form a lot longer. So if you have a longer form to begin with and you need more data, then right aligning your form to the context makes it so that the form field is closer to the label itself. If you left justify all of your fields, then it's the furthest distance between the form label and the form input and takes much longer to fill out. And while these are microseconds, we're talking about very small pieces of time, over the course of several different fields and longer forms and potentially multiple pages, it can make a big difference, A, in speed. If something takes too long, then speed goes down, but also the visual appeal of how long they believe it's going to take as opposed to how long it really does take. Now, unfortunately, I see this all the time where I'm trying to get to a site and I'm trying to give my credit card, and it's a valid credit card, and the site won't take it. Now, what often happens is I get a rejection that says you must put spaces between the digits, or you have to put hyphens, or you can't use spaces or hyphens. You must put just straight numbers. If someone is trying to give you a legitimate credit card, take it, process it. This is for your developers to do. You should not be rejecting valid information. So be careful there. Now, the submit button is also something very poorly used. What does submit mean? It means you're giving your data to somebody. There's no benefit to the word submit. Now, something such as join now, get a 7-day trial, start your order, continue to the next step, that tells someone what's going to happen after they click on this button and give you information. In fact, HubSpot did a study. What happens to our form fills if we have submit button or we use something different? Using something different than submit made a difference in conversion rates by quite a bit. So change your submit buttons to a benefit statement, or to a statement that tells them what's going to happen when they hit this button. Now, don't use CAPTCHAs. All CAPTCHAs do is stop spam and legitimate form fills. This data is from SEO Moz. They did a test where they put in some CAPTCHAs, and they got very little spam with CAPTCHAs. But they also had a lot of failed conversions. Green is the failed section. When they removed the CAPTCHA, they got a little more spam and a lot more legitimate conversions. CAPTCHAs just stop good things from happening. In fact, a few weeks ago, I was trying to open up a Facebook account with a company, and we were just going to throw $10,000 at a product and test out a couple different ideas on Facebook. There were a half dozen of us in the room, and after about 10 minutes, we could not get past Facebook's CAPTCHA. It was so bad that we went and gave LinkedIn this money instead. So be careful of CAPTCHAs. Now, if you're worried about spam, what you can do is take a field that's hidden, that no one can see, and label it something crazy so that an auto-form filler can't see it either. And then make a rule on your site that if there's data in this field that a person couldn't have filled out, it must be spam. That if it's empty field, then go ahead and pass it through. Because a spam bot's just going to try to fill out all the fields. A legitimate person's not. So that way you can just see the difference in how this looks. Just make sure that a auto-form filler doesn't actually start filling up the field as well. You also need to set expectations of what's going to happen when you fill out your form. So this is from Blue Fountain Media. They did a test on their contact page. They had their basic contact page of name, email address, phone, and a submit button. And you don't know what's going to happen. You're going to get a quote. It's fast and free, but you don't really know what's going to happen after you give them the data. Here's their redesign. It still has the name, email, and they could change the submit button, but that's okay. But it has a what you get. You're getting a phone call, a cost estimate, and an in-person meeting if necessary. Now you know what's going to happen after you fill out the field. So telling expectations up front, very useful for increasing conversion rates. Now often you hear social proof. Hey, let's show everyone how many people they're joining when they get this newsletter. And this is a test that DIY Themes ran, where they had 3 different variations to join their newsletter. They had the basic one with social proof, the basic one with it's free, and the it's free with social proof. And what they found is that the one without social proof, the shortest one that said it's free, had the best conversion rates. This is why you must test, because I've seen forms that social proof has made a big difference on. Hence why you often see Twitter follower accounts or Facebook likes, and when something hits a critical traction, then it even goes up faster. Sometimes social proof just adds another line that doesn't matter. Or if you're trying to make something exclusive, adding social proof makes it feel less exclusive because 14,000 other people already get this. Okay, can't be that useful for me if everyone already knows this information. Now, a big question is often, what should we expect from our conversion rates? And it can really vary with forms. If you're doing a simple white paper or newsletter, so there's no contact, someone just gets data back, and you just do name and email, often you can see 10 to 15% here, assuming there's good benefits to filling out the data. The more fields you ask, the worse the conversion rate gets. So this could be the exact same white paper someone's going to get after filling out the information as the previous one with just name and email. But all of a sudden you ask for a phone number, times to call, a website, conversion rates go down. The more information you ask for, the worse conversion rates get. In fact, one of the biggest questions when you're doing lead gen is name, email. You can get a 10, 20% conversion rate. If you ask for a phone number, that is one of the biggest wild cards as far as changing conversion rate goes. Address is the second biggest one. So be careful of phone numbers and addresses. Now, if you have phone numbers and addresses on your form and they're not required, you don't really need them, you just kind of want it. Do a test, one with the phone number and address, one without. See the difference in conversion rates. In fact, one of the best things you can do to your form is go to it, hit the submit button. Do nothing else, just hit submit. See how easy the errors are to find. See, did the form actually go through, that you have a bigger problem you need to fix. And then look at what you really did require and ask yourself, do you need it? Is it something we wish we had, but it's something you wish you had and no one's filling it out, then you probably want to get rid of it. If it's something you wish you had and you really do want it, make it required and see what happens. See the difference in those conversion rates. Now, credibility elements can help a lot as well. Saying that we're a VeriSign, we're authorized.net, we have these other Better Business Bureau seals or Fannie Mae approved, etc. Make a difference in credibility for yourself. Now, often adding a VeriSign seal increases conversion rates, not because it's SSL, because you could make SSL through GeoTrust or through a GoDaddy, whatever. It's the fact that VeriSign markets their SSL. That's often makes a difference with a VeriSign seal, is they tell everyone, hey, we have a great seal, we have a great SSL, so when you see it, you know your data is being trusted. It's sort of like the Intel Inside. Often you see commercials for Intel. Most consumers never buy an Intel direct from Intel. They buy a computer that happens to have Intel inside. But because Intel markets their processor, when you see that badge on a computer, it makes you more likely to buy that computer because you know the credibility and trust associated with the processor. Now, be careful of video on form pages. We do AdWords seminars. We work with Google to put them on. And we had a video testimonial on the page. Thinking, this is great. They can sit here and watch. We have many, many testimonials that are in video form. And when we put the video testimonial, our conversion rates went down. People watched the videos, but then they watched the videos for 10 minutes and probably ran out of time, and our conversion rates were worse than with no video. What we found worked absolute best was to take the testimonials only in text, make them gray. So they're on the page. It subconsciously reinforces someone filling out the field. Because it's gray and the rest of your text is darker, it stands out more. It doesn't detract from what you really want someone to be doing. So with forms, the first question to ask yourself is, do I need this information? If no, get rid of it. If you really don't need it, and especially if no one's giving it to you, It's just a field that's lowering conversion rates. So that's your first step to ask yourself, the perceived value versus the actual value. Step number 2 is go to your form and hit the submit button. Do nothing else. What do the errors look like? Can you easily find them? Can you not find them? Does the form actually go through? Bigger problem. And then start looking at the data you're receiving from the form. If you're getting a lot of fake leads, then put in some sort of, not CAPTCHA, but some sort of hidden form field to reduce the fake leads. If you're doing this for a sales team, ask them how qualified the forms are. If they are not getting very qualified leads, tell them we can get you less, but more qualified ones if we do this, this, and this, and think through what those data points are. Because often with the sales team, they're never going to tell you they have too many leads. Very few sales teams will ever say that. However, they tell you they have too many unqualified leads. They have no problem saying that part. So the question is how do you balance out qualified leads versus total leads? And that's where you're going to play with your forms. But forms can be fantastic on sites. They're great. In e-commerce are already forms. Contacts are already forms. Subscriptions to email or whitepaper downloads are already forms. Thing to play with and test them out, because you need to test your forms, is the perceived value of the data versus the input fields and how valuable someone feels the information they're giving to you is. When what they're getting back is higher, conversion rates are great. What they feel they're getting back is lower, conversion rates are bad. When you work from that standpoint, then you can create forms that will increase conversion rates, which increase your leads and make a lot of good things happen for your company. And if you'd like to learn more about how AdWords functions, how to increase conversion rates, website usability, we have over 150 interactive lessons at certifiedknowledge.org, where you can view lessons. We also have tools for AdWords to make AdWords much faster, so you can be more efficient with your time. And I also have a book, Advanced Google AdWords, available from your favorite retailer and also many digital delivery formats, such as the Nook and Kindle. And if you'd like to just follow us on social media, you can start at BG Theory. Good luck with your marketing, and we hope to see you around the web.